On.
Hey Randy, how you doing?
Excellent. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
All right, beautiful. So everybody, really excited to have Jim Delia with us today. He is at Workday, really important role, SVP Global Revenue Ops, and we have an awesome title topic, which is People, Scale, and Innovation, the three-legged stool of successful RevOps. So that'll be fantastic. We are sponsored today by Phone Ready Leads, who is the outbound sales effectiveness sponsor of Sales Community. And they've done some impressive work for you guys as well, Jim, right?
Yeah, we have a good POC going with them right now. I'm getting some more updates from the team later this week, so I'm looking forward to it. And if I'm not mistaken, you might have connected us with them, so thank you.
There you go. All right, my pleasure. So just to give them a little bit more exposure. So basically, when you do cold calling, people have like a 3 to 5% pickup rate. If you use phone ready leads, they've got a kind of secret sauce, and you end up getting more like 20 to 25%. And the early results of Workday are even more impressive than that, especially in EMEA. And I know they've enjoyed working with your team. But anyway, we have also Tucker behind the scenes helping us. So as always, Tucker, thank you. He just posted up the link. So for those that are members of Sales Community, thanks. For those that are not, you can go to the link spring free there that Tucker has and get a free membership there as well. So Jim lives in Bend, Oregon, for the probably rare moments that you're there. And you've got an awesome family. I know family is super important to you.
Yep, family's number one, and we moved up to Bend, like a lot of folks, when the pandemic happened. And if the folks that know Bend, it's great to be outdoors. So, on the weekends when I'm around the hobbies, I love golf and fly fishing and driving the Porsches and paddleboarding and skiing and all those things. But really love Bend, and we have 3 kids with my lovely bride Jennifer. So we only have 1 kid left. He's going to be going off to college in about a year, so we'll be empty nesters.
There you go. All right. Nice commercial for Bend. And we're trying to figure out how we met. And as best we could figure out was when you're at VMware. So we think it was around 10 years ago or so. So no specific event, but certainly have known you and certainly admired all your great efforts.
Well, Randy, it's been I think about 10 years, but I've been following this along the way. I've been a member of the community here, sales community with you, and a lot of connections we have, and this is something, definitely a tool that I use to stay up on what's happening out there in the broader go-to-market ecosystem.
Awesome, great, and thanks for being a advisory board member as well. And although we haven't worked firsthand, definitely have totally respected you. I know you're highly regarded by the CEOs that basically hire you. Carl, I don't know, we're allowed to say, bringing you along kind of wherever he is to look after him. And between your stints at VMware, ServiceNow, now certainly Workday, I know you're very well thought of in this whole area of, used to be sales ops and now rev ops, and probably a lot longer discussion, but you can definitely see the day, especially leveraging AI, where rev ops leaders could really be probably running the go-to-market function as opposed to a CMO or CRO.
Yeah, I think this whole RevOps notion has really come to fruition probably with a lot of companies in the last 2 or 3 years. And when you're thinking about broader scope and the whole go-to-market motion, bringing that all together, really we're starting to see the speed, agility, execution, and then to your point around AI, we'll get into it, but we're kind of dancing in that a little bit right now, and we won't be able to share too much there. But there's some good opportunities there, especially if you go down market or B2B.
Awesome. So to help on the intro comments side, I've got some from some friends of yours and mine. Tom Hannigan, who's president of ServiceNow, says Jim is an incredible businessman and partner. He understands the day in the life of a sales rep, sales managers, and works incredibly hard to make their lives easier and more productive so they can sell more. He's a great team leader and helps bring organizations together to create a world-class go-to-market team. Full disclosure, I asked him last night, I think like at 11:30, I was like, geez, I totally forgot to ask you. Can you give me something? And he responded right away to his credit. I don't know if he was sleeping or what, but anyway, Kevin Haverty, who you worked closely with when he was CRO at ServiceNow, now vice chairman, So as I met Jim in March of 2020, neither of us knew that it would be our last meal in a restaurant for a year or two, and the world was going to close later that same week. Jim came on board to ServiceNow and remotely led a scaling and rebuild of our operations functions. Under Jim's leadership and steady hand, we accelerated our growth and continued to scale despite numerous challenges that nobody could have predicted. It was a pleasure working alongside Jim during those years, and he can hit the golf ball a mile and straight also. Is that true on the golf side?
Oh, I love Kevin. Yeah, we played Torrey Pines together. So that's, I remember that. But yeah, I grew up playing in San Diego. I played some college golf. So I'm
Wow.
decent. I don't get to play as much anymore, but I'm decent. So.
Very cool. And Carl, who's probably one of the best leaders and CEO leaders and responsive and authentic in his own right. We actually had him on last year. Says Jim is one of the best revenue and operating executives I've ever worked with. I saw him come into VMware and witness the making of a tremendous leader and executive over the 10 plus years. And tribute to you, when I pinged him last week, his likewise was, I think, a 5 or 10 minute response time. So
wow.
Certainly a lot of great people and others that think very highly of you. So I'll make sure I send you these as well.
Well, it's very humbling to hear that, and especially from those three individuals, Hanny and Kevin and Carl, and yeah, it's humbling. And just to return, when you think of humility and integrity and trust and execution, those three guys come to thought for me. So thank you. I appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's get in some of the questions here. So I always like to start off by asking for people their first job out of college, and you went to UC Davis. And I know your majors, one of them was art history. I know what that is, but rhetoric communications, what is that?
Well, they don't have really a business degree undergrad at UC Davis. So it was rhetoric and communications and art history. And it was really the rhetoric pieces around the arts and theories of persuasion by Aristotle and Plato. So
oh, wow.
I definitely had to use that when I was selling for a long time. I'll tell you that. But yeah, so
there you go. All right. And so what was your first job out of school?
Yeah, first job out of school was tailor-made office solutions in Walnut Creek, California. And, I was going door to door, pounding the pavement, selling copiers and fax machines, and going through a lot of soles of my nice new dress shoes that were very expensive when you're right out of college. But that was meaning I was pounding the pavement. But that was my first job out of college. And then my first job ever, as I started a lawnmower business in the neighborhood I grew up in when I was about 12 years old. So that's where I got the taste of selling and working and making money.
Nice. Love that. I mean, nothing better than the copiers and just grinding and cold calling and the skills that we all had back in the day versus now, where everybody's spoiled and geez, I need more leads, and I want people calling in me, where you're like, they just don't know how good they have it, right? I mean, what you can do now in 5 minutes used to take us like 5 days.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I remember those days, and it's kept me grounded. I'll tell you that. So
there you go. And then maybe just kind of quickly touch on, you worked for some fantastic companies, Xerox, Cisco, VMware, ServiceNow, and Workday.
Yeah. I started off my career in sales, like right out of college. Again, I'm an old guy, so 95, and then
not as old as me. I think I got 10 years on. 10 years on.
And then, I learned a lot. And then I decided, I woke up one day and I said, look, I want to help companies scale and be profitable and be operationally sound. So I moved from sales into operations, and that was the opportunity I had at Cisco. And at Cisco, that time, you're really focusing on process and having the right people in the right locations, and kind of the follow the sun model and global hubs. And, we looked at, moving the company from a hardware-based company to as a service company. And we also really focus on seller productivity, which I know it's going to be a topic for today, around how do we improve productivity for the sales folks so they can spend more time in front of customers and partners.
Yeah. Awesome.
And then I moved into VMware and ServiceNow, as you talked about. And that's when we really started to think about this whole I guess the RevOps fruition came to fruition around bringing decentralized teams together around that go-to-market motion to kind of, build a infrastructure or pod around the sales teams. And so we brought like enablement and go-to-market strategy and the planning, of course, incentives, and then the sales partner and marketing ops. We had customer service, whole of pricing monetization, new product introduction, deals desk, and then at VMware we had manufacturing. So that's kind of when it came to fruition for us around this whole RevOps conversation without calling it that at that time.
Wow, that's great. So I'm sure there's lots of lessons learned along the way that has kind of shaped you into the great RevOps leader you are today.
Yeah, I learned a lot. Sales, you have a little more freedom. Ops is you got to be a little more grittier, and I've said this before. It's a thankless job, but when you do the right things and you see us hitting the top line and the sales folks happy and closing a lot of deals, and you're involved in that, that's where I get my excitement, and seeing our teams do that as well. So it was a pivot I made, and I wouldn't change my trajectory and where I'm at today. It's been great.
Awesome. So I think everybody think know, but maybe just kind of take a step back and kind of how do you define RevOps?
Yeah, it's RevOps is really around pivot around the seller. How do you make them successful? And it's really around kind of orchestrating this infrastructure concept, or this kind of hub concept around them. And I was, like I said, an ex-seller. I also led sales teams, so I kind of have the idea and understanding of really how to operationalize their needs. And I always coach people on, when you wake up every morning, how do you think about how do you make the sellers more productive? And the more productive they are, the fact they can be in front of more customers and partners. And so that was that whole concept of connection and bringing these disparate teams together, and kind of looking at this from an end-to-end perspective. This infrastructure, kind of like this offer to cash, bringing that all together. And that's what really prepared me for what I've been doing thus far. And that's why I'm here at Workday and looking forward to doing that.
Awesome. Any kind of one or two things that you're kind of especially proud of that you've accomplished at Workday that you can talk publicly about?
Well, let's see. I've only been here a little over 8.5 months. I think a couple things is looking at how we get things done. So I like to focus in on, if things can be automated, we look at, automation. And if they can't, then we look at other ways of doing it. If it can't be, systematized or, re-engineer the process, then we look at maybe doing some things in a global site strategy to do that. So really help with efficiencies in the bottom line. And there's things like AI that we're starting to look at that, we're kicking off now. But I'd say the third piece would be around OpEx versus headcount. In RevOps, I like to look at OpEx and P&L and think like a general manager versus just looking at headcount. So we've moved the needle in that area as well. So those are probably the 3 areas just in the short 8.5 months.
Wow, awesome. And I think most companies these days have kind of, I'll say, kind of maybe overbought on the tech stack side, and everybody's looking to, how can they do more with less and consolidate the tech stack? Do you have a initiative like that going?
We do. It's funny you bring that up. I came in, I asked the question. I said, when you look at our sales tools, applications, what does that architecture look like? And then how are we using them? And, I'll say it because I'm this type of person. I put it out there. We have over 42 tools we're using right now just for sales. Now, I'm not going to say if that's too much or too less, or we can improve that, but I will tell you there's opportunity there, especially when you need to do things and change things. Yeah. I want to do it with speed and agility. So I think there's an opportunity of us to definitely simplify that tech stack.
Awesome. And then within the tech stack, any, I'll say either, favorites that you have or ones you want to kind of comment on that you're using?
I would say probably the biggest usage we have, of course, is Salesforce. That's our, I'll call it freeway. That's our
Yeah.
platform. Everything sits on top of that. Definitely Clary, um, Slack and Zoom, Tableau. I would say Zoom Info. Those are some of the big call outs, right? That I would probably say we're probably using the most.
Awesome. And then to what degree are you looking at leveraging AI?
Yeah. So what I'm hopeful is in the future you invite me back, but I could probably give
Of
a little
course.
bit more information on that. But we've kicked off some, I'll call it use cases. We've got about 21 use cases right now we're looking at that holistically around sales, but the use cases are not just for sales, but it's also for the RevOps teams. So we're looking at that. But when you think about the spirit of AI, we need to do it the right way, and the whole responsible AI is really, really important to us at Workday. And in fact, we partnered with the National Institute of Standards and Technology on this, so we've helped shape that.
Oh,
This whole AI risk assessment and management framework. So the long of it is it's important to us. We're looking at it, but we also want to respect it as well. So there's a fine balance there. But maybe next time, like I said, if I get the pleasure and opportunity to come back, we can share a
sure.
little bit more of concrete what we've done in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, a lot of it too. So you have kind of the now, but a lot of it must be kind of looking down the road and say, okay, what does B2B sales look like? Any kind of early points of view on that?
Yeah, I will definitely say, just in some of the articles and that I've read and that's public out there, the whole Gen AI and machine learning and AI is definitely, I'd call it a disruptor, especially down market SMB, B2B markets and segments. And you're starting to see that now. I'm starting to see those use cases. I'm starting to see this play out. I was on the phone yesterday with a company that's doing really good in AI and in that space you just mentioned. And, they shared some of those use cases. So I think as you go down market, you're going to see faster and more innovation. As you go up market, you still got to have salespeople, pound on the pavement as I used to do, and or in front of customers, and talking about the value of the platform and Workday and so forth. So I think it's just going to depend on the maturity of the market and the segment.
Gotcha. And then as you think about that future state, kind of the people aspect must come into play to say, okay, how do we make sure that we're kind of hiring and training or retraining around a profile of kind of where the puck's going, not necessarily where it's been?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is where I think we'll start to get into kind of the whole three-legged stool concept here. And, we all know that when you have a three-legged stool, you need three things for that stool to be sturdy. And one is people, right? And the importance of people. And so the three-legged stool, which we'll talk about here, is around people, scale, and innovation. But for the first point around people, you gotta make sure you have the right people doing the work, and that will also help their career and help the morale. And then the people aspects around scaling that work that I talked about a little bit earlier, and the benefits of that, not only for the sales and RevOps teams, but for the bottom line. And then the third would be around people, and this piece is around operating with that innovative mindset. I always look for people that like to innovate, like to be a change agent, always open to the new and better ways of doing things and not just being complacent.
Yeah. Great, thanks. And we have from Mitch, you touched on this a bit, but what do you see as a short-term state B2B selling today, future B2B? So I think you touch on future B2B, but any points of view on kind of the state of B2B selling today? Some of my points of view are things that 20 years ago people would do in their sleep is now several times, unfortunately, kind of more the exception as opposed to the norm in terms of kind of behaviors and activity and expectations and things like that. What's your take?
Yeah, I think directionally that makes sense. I think how we used to sell before has definitely changed. I think, look at the pandemic. That was a prime example of how you sell. Everyone thought you used to be in front of customers and on planes all day long. And, those whole concepts of an inside out model proved to work. The whole concepts of leveraging, tech, AI is starting to work on how you sell. And so, but I will tell you, and we'll talk about this. I like the whole healthy paranoia concept,
Yeah.
and waking up every day thinking about doing different things to get the attention of the customer. And whether that's pick up the phone in the traditional way that you and I used to do it all the time, Randy, and call, or figuring out how a bot or AI is going to help drive demand gen and pipeline and create that for the customer, right?
Yeah.
So different ideas.
Yeah. Or God forbid people actually go and do face-to-face sales calls or lunches or dinners.
I still do it, but maybe, I enjoy people, so that's why I like to do it too. So
yeah, definitely. So anyway, so Mitch, thanks. And for those that are watching or listening, feel free to chime in with any questions or comments here. Jim is definitely a wealth of knowledge here. So if we go back to talk about the title topic, the three-legged stool of successful RevOps: people, scale, and innovation. So why are those three the right three things?
Yeah, let's take a few minutes maybe to talk about it. So the people, like we talked about, just having the right people doing the right jobs. Those transferable skills are huge. And I will tell you, for the folks that's out there that's in sales, I definitely see great sales leaders and sales folks make that transition to ops people and do a great job. So if you get tired of that and you want to come join RevOps,
The commercial, there's a plug.
There's a plug. And the plug is too.
It's also great. Actually, why you bring that up? Sorry.
Yeah.
It's also what an amazing development area. I mean, I've got friends. I'll talk to about some of the sales tech and stools. Or, that's my talk to my RevOps, talk to CMO. I'm like, no, you need to have your handle on those controls. So especially if you're like an earlier in career person or whatever stage, you may not naturally think about it, but as Jim said, just think how better equipped you're going to be a CRO of the future, having that RevOps background, right?
Absolutely. And we've heard this saying before, but I'll say it again: strategically tactical.
Right.
I think Carl came up with that 10 years ago, and I believe in that. And if you have that skill set, you can definitely do it. But you're spot on. That transition from an operator and in RevOps to being a CRO would be phenomenal. You'll have that GM mindset. The other thing around people I talk about is, just, understanding where they're at in their career and what they want to do and kind of their sentiment. And we have data. It's a Pecan application we use. It's a Workday application we use. It goes out every week where we're kind of polling the team and getting the sentiment of the team and making sure they're happy or dissatisfied. But this is real-time information that we get, that we're not waiting for annual surveys that people do in companies. It's weekly. And, we get these scores. We've had these scores before at all of our companies where people say rewards and recognition isn't very good. But when you peel back the onion and you look at the data, it gives you those insights. It was really about just being public about recognition, recognizing people for their great work in a public setting. So we pivoted on that, and it's done a great job to help us. So Pecan's really helped us. And then I would say the third leg to the people leg is around the career development. You really got to look at, career development for folks, and, to your point, those transferable skills that go from sales or global revenue or RevOps into a CRO type of role. There is a lot of complementary things going on there. And then, if you can do all those things, there's a lot of upward mobility, whether you want to be a first line sales manager or you want to be a manager in RevOps. And, we promote within. We've promoted over 20% of our first time managers last year, and we're improving there. But all of these things around people is very important. And that's why I focus in on the people, because that is our number one priority at Workday, is around the people. It starts with that. And, the whole company benefits when you do that.
Totally. And kind of my theory over the years, especially some of the larger companies I was at, is that it's really I may be in executive capacity or whatever, but it's really those first line sales managers that really run the sales engine at most companies. Anything special that you do there?
I will, yeah, and you're spot on. I will tell you that is the hardest sales job in a sales hierarchy or in a company, is the first line sales manager, and it is the most important role. And we see that, we recognize that, and we have really dedicated enablement plans for those first line sales managers, because a lot of them were great individual contributors and teams, now being promoted up to now lead a team.
Right.
It's not the same, right? It's a little different skill set. There's little different things you have to pay attention to. And so, we had our sales kickoff, in February, and we spent almost a whole half day or day just on training that team and getting them prepared to lead. So you're spot on.
Yeah, so important. Anyway, we can talk all day about people, but
yeah.
Let's go on to the next one. Scale.
Yeah. So you got to have scale when you think of operations. And we need to think about also the bottom line. So that's important too. So how can we help like global revenue and Workday not only be efficient in sales or RevOps, but really for our shareholders and for the company? So you got to think about the scalability aspects of that, and having those sound processes, those the systems and tools we've talked about, really be inclusive of the automation, and we talked about the people. And so in support of the policies too, that's kind of driven across the company, we have to enable those as well. Some of the things we did was, we talked about a little bit when it's coming in, maximizing budgets, right? You got to think like a general manager. You got to move away from that head count concept to that OpEx mindset. And that's really a behavioral change. But by doing that, it really, really will help us scale and be more efficient. And again, we talked about this too, having the right people in the right location. So, the foundational for scaling is around those COEs, center of excellences, or shared services models. You have to have that as part of that backbone.
Yeah, I mean, so important there for sure. And then finally, innovation.
Yeah, innovation. This is really where I love to see this, and this is where I like sales folks, because sales folks are very creative and they like to innovate. So that's why I'm like, hey, RevOps, here we are, come join us. But when I really encourage this, and it really identifies the ideas around producing that profitability and that scalability, but with speed. You need the speed to do it. So we talked about this around leveraging the platform and the systems and tools. Always think about innovation, not always about the tech. You can change processes or policies and still, innovate. And we've done this at many companies, and I'm going to date myself, but Cisco is a use case. We had all the sales folks spending a lot of time doing administrative things. It's taken away time from selling. So we moved all that into operations to give them time back. And VMware, which, wow, I'm dating myself here. I mean, today we look at this as a norm, but 10 years ago was not, where we put a lot of mobile applications on the phone, where we, we're approving deals, tracking deals, looking at quota attainment, doing enablement training. It seems like a given today, but 8 years ago it was not. And then ServiceNow, what do we do there? We looked at the solution consultants that were spending 10, 15,000 hours a year just fielding pricing and packaging questions. And so we took that off their plate. We automated most of it. Also, we looked at looking at a global resource team to help support that. Again, that's another productivity for them. And then at Workday, we're automating I'll call it the pricing monetization SKUs motion we have here, and dramatically reducing that down to weeks versus months. And that's going to really help us as we, have ramped the revenue and gain market share in our new offerings. So a lot of things we're doing in that area too, around innovation.
Awesome. So cool. And then I meant to ask, what do you call it, a stool?
Three-legged stool, because I guess a stool can have four legs too, right, Randy? But yeah. I think of it as just a three-legged stool. So I like to keep things simple.
Okay, so you don't get fancy and say, okay, the stool is really the company or the sales team or anything like that?
No, I put maybe the C of the stool is the shareholders, the customers, the partners, and the company, and then RevOps is the people, the scale and innovation to really make that all come to fruition. How's that?
Gotcha. All right, there you go. All
Pulled
right, so
that out. Boom.
there you go. All right, so shifting gears here, how would the people that work for you describe your leadership style?
Oof. I better get this right. I always like to say the power of and. I use that word, the power of and. And what I mean by that is, you don't have to choose to do this or that, but you figure out a way to do both. And you can grow and you can scale, for example, at the same time. So I always say it's not about, no, it's maybe not right now. So that would be one. And then I mentioned this earlier around having this sense of healthy paranoia. Don't settle, don't be complacent. And then I would say challenge to act and think differently, but faster so you don't get complacent. Speed right now is so important. So having the agility and speed. And then strategically tactical, we talked about. And then for some of these, again, it's not rocket science, but it's tangible. And I hold myself accountable to demonstrate that and lead by example here.
Awesome. And I know you're big on mentoring. Kind of what's your approach to mentorship?
Yes, mine is more informal. I think mentorship should be more frequent, more often, more fluid. Invest in the people's careers and make those personal connections. Like I said, be open, have an ongoing dialogue, and it will make it long-lasting relationships rather than just a point in time and on specific topics. And the example I have would be, when I was running customer service at Cisco, we had internships from college. I'm still friends with those folks, and I've helped them get hired, buy a car, buy a house, get married, have kids, counsel. We still do that today. It's 25 years later. So that's what I enjoy about mentoring. But again, it's about being there and present, and more often and more frequent and less structured.
Awesome. And a reminder for anybody that's watching or listening along, feel free to chime in with any other questions as well for Jim here. So what about for mentors yourself? Any kind of one or two that you could share, and any specific takeaways?
Sure. A few come to mind. I would say Carl is one, and he's really guided, my approach to scaling companies. So it started back in the VMware days. So, a little prop for him, definitely. And then Randy Pond. He helped me really navigate going from sales into operations and that transition at Cisco. And then John Chambers, one of the best CEOs ever. And he really helped me from I'll call it a Cisco family perspective and inform my approach to leadership and mentorship. So those would be three that stand out for me.
Awesome. I used to love if you got into the conferences or meetings, whatever, how you do the walk around.
Yeah.
And it would just force you to pay attention. And then I got that from him. And then, Donatelli did it as well when we were at HP. But and he's, great in a bunch of different areas. But
John used to come up and look you right in the eyes and put his hand on your shoulder. And you're like, holy moly. So those are the good memories.
It's just the old guy, good old West Virginia boy can do, right?
Yeah, I love it.
So great. And also know you're passionate about DEI as well.
Yeah, very passionate about DEI. Here at Workday, we call it VIBE. So what does VIBE stand for? It's around value, inclusion, belonging, and equity. And my little story on that is I was in college. I was taking American Sign Language, and I was fluent in sign language, and they came in and the professor asked us, hey, does any of you want to be therapists for autistic children? Because that was their form of communication. And I said, heck yeah, I'll do that. So that's when I get introduced to it, was when I was in college, and really enjoyed it. And, in full transparency, 2 out of 3 of my kids have some form of disability. So I'm heavily involved in that. And so my 2 previous companies, I was the executive sponsor for people with disabilities. And at Workday, I'm still ramping up here, but I'm starting to get more involved there.
Awesome. That's so great, and certainly so important as well.
Yeah.
So what about looking at your kind of SDR, BDR, kind of earlier in career kind of sales folks? So any of them that are kind of watching or listening along, any kind of feedback or advice for them?
They're very eager. They're very impatient, which I love.
They want to be CEO tomorrow, right?
They want to be CEO tomorrow. And I love that energy. I love that passion. But you and I grew up in a way that we had aspirations as well. We would say we want to be a CEO, but we also knew that you needed to have great ideas. You had to build great relationships. You had to execute and drive sales and hit your numbers. So the data, the facts, the experience, just don't let it go too fast. Really take everything in. I would absorb a lot. I would ask a lot of questions. They like to hop around to different jobs, which is great. But I still think you need to be in a role at least almost 2 years to really understand the ingredients of it. Because that, kind of go slow to go fast, that concept, right out of college, just take your time, really be the best in your role, be the best producer in your role, be the expert in your role, and then transition. I know that's some of my thoughts. Again, technology has changed this world that we live in today, and they have more at their fingertips, so they can do things faster, right? So that's a few ideas.
Yeah, and I guess talking about arming and equipping those sellers. I mean, not that you still need to have the sales skills, but just what a huge advantage being able to leverage the toolkit that you have. On the one hand, it might be kind of so massive for them to get and understand. So how do you kind of make sure they understand kind of what to do and how to do, because they can really be so much more productive leveraging all the great kind of tools stack that you have in place for them, right?
Absolutely. The what, the how is very important and set their fingertips. So, and they can leverage it more. So anyways, it would be interesting if I go back in time to see how I would have done. But it's exciting, and we need them too, right? We need that skill set. We need their energy. We need their passion. It keeps us all honest and moving fast and humble. So.
Yeah. And then talking about adoption, then you probably have, also then saying the kind of, as you go on up the, management ranks, whether it's a DM, director, VP, kind of SVP, director, et cetera, really making sure that they're also kind of leveraging and adopting the tech stack as well. So it's one thing for you to put it together, but there must be a whole nother kind of human factor to say, okay, please use and take advantage of this, because it can make you and your team so much more productive.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was talking about earlier around the first line sales manager is the most important and impactful leadership role in a sales organization, because you go from just looking in whatever tool you use for CRM today and potentially Clary, and I'm running my patch and I'm figuring out what partners are involved and what do I need to do, to being a manager now, and you're looking, and now you have to do portfolio management, and you have to have all the management skills and training to do that. You're looking at your business differently. You're looking at more from a macro point of view versus a micro point of view and just a small zip code or a patch. You have to make key decisions on people, right? And productivity. It's definitely important. And there's a lot of tools out there today that, I wish we had when we were, when I was a first-line sales manager. This, I'll call it cockpit or 360 view of the team. It's all there and it's all insightful, and you can make quick decisions.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I would imagine on the lead generation side, that's kind of mostly owned by marketing, but kind of how do you get involved in the lead gen side?
Yeah, so I came here, and in full transparency, I came here, and the CSD organization, which that's what we call it, but it's also called like SDRs at a lot of other
Yeah.
companies. They were all in RevOps, so it was an interesting model, and we had close to 300 of them there. And I took a step back and I said, yes, what they do is transactional. You're leveraging systems and tools and all these different things, but I said to myself, it probably makes better sense to have them closer to sales. And so I lifted and shifted, almost 300 of the CSDs right next to the inside sales team. So now you have the CSDs and inside sales and kind of that digital team all together. That was the right thing to do. Also from a career perspective, again, focusing on the people, also kind of the work that they did. So we moved them there. And then to your question, exactly, yes, when it comes to demand gen and pipeline, tight connection with RevOps, with marketing, and you're looking at partner, you're looking at marketing, you're looking at sales and CSDs to all drive that. And so, we're the foundation, I call it conduit, that connects all those different functions together. But yeah, Emma's our new CMO. She's fantastic, and we've got a great partnership. So more to come in that area as well.
Awesome. And great question from Alex, just talking about marketing. What are some of the most impactful marketing efforts you've seen to drive qualified leads?
I love it, Alex. I come from a background in my previous companies where marketing would say you can count on contribution to retiring quota or net new ACV, whatever we called it, based on where we were, of 20%. And I loved it because they were signing up for a number. And then that was kind of the what. And then the how is where, Alex, your question is going around, well, how do you do that? And look, when it comes down to very effective marketing organizations, anything they can do now, and especially where we talked about AI and digital, that can help us drive pipeline and qualified pipeline is very impactful. Anything they can do with external events is very impactful. Things that we're looking at right now, where if you look at the selling stages, and if you're starting to see things start to slow down, I'll call it in stage 5 or stage 6, what can marketing do then to directly ping that customer and then see if through the marketing aspects and their activities, if they can help drive more momentum and excitement to kind of move the deal along. So it's not always the salesperson doing that.
Yep.
And I know MN team is looking at not just filling the funnel, but really the correlation of filling the funnel, but what did that directly correlate to net new ACV and revenue, and being able to tie that all together. And that's really an effective marketing organization. So we can go on and on about this one, but I don't think any company can be successful without the backbone of marketing.
Absolutely. And Alex, looks like if you're a team of one at a startup, I think it definitely is critical to make sure that you're aligned with the sales leader. So then you figure out, a lot of times you'll hear from the sales side, oh, we get these MQLs, they don't mean anything. Marketing is, green in there, all their stuff, but then sales red in terms of theirs. So just making sure that you have alignment in terms of, what does the sales team really view as a great lead, which may sound like something that's really basic, but a lot of times I found that's very, very helpful.
Absolutely.
And Keith Barber chimes in saying aligning marketing to the sales process. Great idea. Hey, how about that as a novel concept? Yeah.
Jim, we should have all the same forecast methodology, same pipeline methodology, same sales stages, and then you have the whole company, aligns around that. So then when you do things with partners or CSDs or marketing or sales, it's all part of that end-to-end process. So.
Totally. All right. Well, time flies when you're having fun. Jim, you've been amazing. So much great wisdom here, and we'll definitely look forward to having you on about down the road about how you're leveraging AI, or certainly any other great topics and accomplishments that you have have going on there for sure. And just for, we got here, Alex said, thank you. I have a crossover role to sales enablement, so that helps alignment. Appreciate the insights. There you go. All right. Well,
Perfect, Alex.
So next week, June 5th, we have Jim Carr, who's actually a sales and marketing professor I met at Alabama. His title topic is how to build consistently effective sales communications. After that, June 12th is Rick Scurfield, who was longtime NetApp. Now he's CRO at Vast Data. And tips to be a better cross-functional and strategic thinking CRO. And then June 19th, JP LaCour, who's SVP of marketing at DataBank. And then I don't know if you knew from Cisco, Vinay Nichani, who is VP Worldwide Software Sales. So great lineup here coming on. Tucker, thanks for your help behind the scenes. Give a little shout out to Katie here, who helped as well. And certainly hope that everybody has a great week. And Jim, thanks again.
Thanks, Randy. I really appreciate the time. Have a good rest of your day, my friend.